Hey, what's up there, YouTubers? It's me again, Brian, aka Gamer55551, and I am back with a My 2 Cent video for this week, for the week of May 25th to May 25th and to the 31st, 2025, where I take a look at a couple of stories that caught my attention and give you my thoughts and my opinion about them. I do want to start off by saying that there won't be any video review for this week, mostly because I usually use this last Saturday of the month, maybe to catch up on stuff here and there. And it's possible I might not do another video next week due to the fact that assuming everything goes very well, the Switch 2 I ordered from Walmart supposedly will come in next week, barring anything major or anything like that. Currently checking just to make sure my pre-order didn't get canceled or anything like that. So it depends on how the situation plays out on next week. I might be able to squeeze in a video review, but again, that will depend on the situation and all. But in any way, we got 4 stories to cover this week, including some information from EA in terms of, basically closing studios to taking some different approaches with their franchise. An interesting thing involving Clair Obscur Expedition 33, which they announced something which sounds just weird what the developer said at all, but in a good way, to be exact though. Fairgames isn't looking very good for Sony, especially their live service push, and rumors about the possibility of a Nintendo Direct could be happening, maybe quicker than I think a lot of people would have thought it would be, although some are speculating when it would happen, especially with the Switch 2 just around the corner and all. If you're interested in where I got the source of this information, links will be in the description of this video, assuming you're either watching this on YouTube or Patreon. And of course, timestamps will also be in the description as well, if there are certain parts of this video you wish to skip to and all. Before we get started, I like to do what I like to call the quick My 2 Cent, stories that kind of caught my attention, but I'm not going to go into a huge amount of details of them. The first one has to do with the fact that Nintendo posted a video out of what we expect to see for the Nintendo 64 games on the Switch 2. As you know, Nintendo's gearing up for the Switch 2 and everything, and basically the Nintendo Switch Online service, NSO, is going to be there as well. Some of the stuff they showed off was CTR filter and a rewind option, which, it is interesting and it's nice to have that there. The only downside is this is only going to be on the Switch 2, not the Switch 1. And I can't help but feel to some degree this should have been added during the Switch 1 era, to be exact. I know it's not, some folks may have different perspectives on it. Some may not like what Nintendo's doing on this. Some are okay with it. But in either case, though, expect to see this kind of feature pop up for those who are taking advantage of Nintendo Switch's online service on the Switch 2 and all. We are also learning that U.S. retailers are reportedly starting to receive, Switch 2s in stock, which to me, I would say I wouldn't be completely surprised. Obviously, next week will be the big one when the system finally comes out and everything. There has also been some folks posting photos of those stocks coming in online as well, although it's been reported some of those photos have been taken down due to supposedly serial or order numbers started popping up, to even reports of those somehow managed to get a Switch 2 early, only for some reason they may not be able to play at least certain games or something until a day 1 update happens and all. So, obviously it's in the wild and everything like that. But in either case, though, next week, as of recording this video, next week, it's going to be the big week in terms of when Switch 2 comes out and all. We also learned that Castle of Heart Retold is going to be getting a revamp or some changes to it for the Nintendo Switch 2. This game was released, I think, during the Switch 1 era and everything, and it was a fun game, especially playing it on the Switch 1 and all, and I'm very curious to see how this one will do for the Switch 2 and everything. We also learned that Codemaster said that they will be looking into the possibility of the F1 Formula games coming to the Switch 2 and all. Obviously, nothing is set in stones, but assuming the Switch 2 does take off, and odds are pointing towards it most likely will, though we'll have to wait and see. It would be very interesting to see if there's some pressure on Codemaster to consider bringing the F1 games over to basically to the Switch 1. We also learned that Sega is open to the idea of the Shinobi series being revived, assuming how well Shinobi Art of Vengeance does. That's the new 2D Shinobi game, though. I am hoping the game does very well indeed, and that it does open the door to the possibility of bringing the Shinobi series back. I mean, look, we're seeing with Ninja Gaiden, we're getting upcoming Ninja Gaiden 4 and that 2D Ninja Gaiden game in development as well. So who knows? Maybe this opens the door to a new 3D Shinobi type of game, and well, hopefully this game does very well. I mean, this is almost very similar to what we're seeing with Virtua Fighter 5, although supposedly there are reports Sega is basically saying stuff such as if the game doesn't live up to certain standards, they could pull the plug on that one. So we'll wait and see about that. We also is hearing reports that Hellblade 2 is getting a physical release. However, it's not being handled by Microsoft. It's being handled by Limited Run Games. So those who are more wanting to opt for a physical copy of Hellblade 2, I mean, that is considering basically something to take into consideration if you're aiming to get that game, get a physical copy as well. We also learned that Street Fighter 6, at least the Switch 2 version, somehow has a combination of a code in a box and a game key card. There were reports coming out that the game not only has the game key card, but there is also the code in box which contains the downloadable content, though, that you enter it in and everything like that. To me, I mean, excuse me, I think it's very bizarre if this is true that Capcom's doing this. Why not just put everything into the game key card and all? I mean, I get the fact game key card is considered going to be controversial for Switch 2 owners. Not everyone is on board with it though. But I will say it is the better option than what we saw during the Switch 1 era, which is the empty box with a piece of paper in it. And so this just seems bizarre that Capcom is sort of taking this approach and all. We also learned that Dragon Quest 1-2 HD 2D remake will be arriving this October, and it's also will be coming to the Nintendo Switch 2, which certainly is good news indeed. However, there are now reports coming out that the Switch 2 version will be the game key card one. So that's something I would say those who are planning to get this game for the Nintendo platform, whether it's Switch or Switch 2, may want to keep that in mind should you decide to go for the Nintendo version and so forth. We also learned that Capcom is opening a new Osaka studio, though. Apparently, Capcom seems to be doing very well indeed, and that certainly is a good thing. They've been putting out some pretty good quality games and all, even though there has been some controversies, like I think Gods of the Past, according to them, didn't sell as well as they hoped for. We'll see how that does on the Switch 2. There was some controversy with Dragon Dogma 2, which although did very well, there was certain performance issues in the beginning, especially some complaint about them relying on, ray tracing, build the game around ray tracing and all. But either case, Capcom seems to be doing very well indeed. We also, unfortunately, have reports that Playtonic is laying off several employees and all, which is very unfortunate indeed, though, because it's really sad to hear a lot of the studios, lay off a lot of these employees and everything like that. My heart goes out to them, and I hope they're able to find, a new job and so forth, though. We also learned that Microsoft has signed a historical agreement with the quality developers at Bethesda. This was negotiated for basically a couple of years and all, and associated with Communication Workers of the America, CWA. Assuming all parties are in an agreement, I think this is very good indeed, though. Again, I believe, although I do believe this should be up to the employees to decide, I definitely more in favor of those in the gaming industry who wish to unionize, though. Same thing with the tech industry in general. And last but not least, we are now learning reports that Xbox might be sidelining or pulling the plug at the very least on their first-party handheld for the time being, as it seems that they're now more focused on working with other companies, to put Game Pass or work with them to put Xbox stuff in there, though. However, it does seem to indicate that the successor for the Xbox Series X and S seems to be in the works at this time, though. It is a little bit unfortunate indeed, because I was kind of curious to see how this first party or Xbox take on their own handheld, to be exact. things probably could have changed and everything like that and all. And it does seem to indicate, at least according to this report, that they haven't abandoned doing a first-party handheld. It's just not going to happen like anytime soon, such as the reports claim that it would be out by 2027, but that doesn't seem to be the case at this time. And in the movie and TV show part of the Quick My 2 Cent video, we have a new trailer, or at least an opening for Hulu's revival of King of the Hill. I'm very curious to see how this one will turn out, to be exact. We did, however, see the opening that kind of very familiar to the old opening to the King of the Hill, only this time we have Bobby all grown up and everything like that. I'm very curious to see how this one is going to play out and all. So this one I'm going to keep an eye out, though. I believe it will be out on August 8th on Hulu and Disney+, so certainly one to keep an eye out indeed. We also learned that supposedly in regards of the future of Moon Knight, who had only one season on Disney+, both Kevin Feige and I think Oscar Isaac, there's been reports saying that another season on the future of that character is up in the air, and obviously this will fall on Kevin Feige. It will be very interesting to see how they use that character going forward or not. There's also been rumors about the possibility of a Midnight Sun movie or something like that, so we'll have to wait and see, though. I did enjoy Moon Knight, though, and I would like to see Moon Knight make a continued appearance and everything. We also learned that basically George A. Romano is giving an update on his other books and everything like that, though, although there has been now reports that some fans are a little worried that he's not going to be able to conclude his Game of Thrones trilogy and all, but I mean, obviously we'll have to wait and see on that one, although one of his stories, Elden Ring, that he helped collaborate with From Software is getting a movie adaptation, so that's kind of interesting indeed. And last but not least, there are now reports coming out about the possibility or theories of basically what to do with Spider-Man Brand New Day. It was supposed to take place between Avengers Doomsday and Avengers Secret War. However, because those movies got delayed, there's been some questions about what might happen with, Spider-Man Brand New Day and all. And there's many believe that the next movie will be grounded and could take place, around where Daredevil Born Again is happening, considering Kingpin is the mayor and he talks about going after these vigilantes and everything like that. However, it is worth pointing out the filming has not yet begun at this time, so we'll have to, maybe it's possible they may push Brand New Day back and meet it more closer to what Avengers Doomsday and Secret War is, but for now, though, there was a lot of speculation. We'll have to wait and see until we hear something official from Marvel and all. Okay, with the Quick My 2 Cent part now done, along with the movie and TV show part of the Quick My 2 Cent, we'll get started with our first story, and this one has to do with the Nintendo Direct. Now, obviously, around June, basically with E3 no longer being with us, which I still view as very unfortunate, we do see a lot of these events start popping up, though. We have Summer Game Fest coming up. We know that Microsoft will be hosting their Xbox Showcase. We'll be looking forward to that. And then, of course, there is the Nintendo Direct. And many are kind of wondering when we might see this Direct, and if so, will it happen around when the Switch 2 is going to launch and everything? So there has been some speculations on when it might happen, and I believe the person's name PR Brazil, who supposedly has a history of getting a lot of things correct, though, seems to chime in on this and basically believes when we could see the next Nintendo Direct and all. In an article from Nintendo Life, it reads that quote, and then, according to PH Brazil, sorry, I got the name wrong. During a recent live stream, Nintendo is looking to hold its next Direct presentation on the Switch 2 launch week or the week after, as quote from a post on FamilyBar. PH Brazil has previously been accurate regarding Nintendo plans. They have proven to be reasonably reliable with such things. This will certainly line up nicely with Nintendo's action in previous years too. The company has held a Direct presentation some sort of almost every June since 2012, the day of talking about E3 and everything like that. But this has since been supplemented by Summer Game Fest, Nintendo doesn't have anything to do with Jeff Keighley's events these days, but does often align with its own announcements quite closely, nevertheless. So, do I think we might see one maybe during the Switch 2 launch or maybe the week after? I think that's a possibility and all, and if it does happen, I'm very curious to see what gets to announce though. I mean, will we see a lot more Switch 2 announcements, or maybe there are some announcements we didn't see during the Switch 2 Direct that happened in April? Is it going to be mostly focused on Switch 1 games at this time, or a combination of both? So it's going to be very interesting to see if this Direct does happen. I do believe it is going to happen, but I'm going to take a guess and say most likely a week after the Switch 2, maybe later in June. I mean, that is a possibility and everything. So, but again, we'll have to wait and see to be exact though. And PH Brazil again does have a history and seems to get a lot of things right. I'm not saying it's 100%, he could be 100% accurate. You should always take that information with a grain of salt though, but given his track record, I wouldn't exactly rule out what this person is basically saying. So overall, I do think we'll probably see Nintendo Direct in June. I'm leaning more towards maybe a week after the Switch 2, possibly later though, but it's not out of the realm of possibility that a Nintendo Direct could happen on the week of when the Switch 2 does launch and all. Okay, we're going to take a quick break, and when we get back, we'll get to part 2. And this one has to do with, unfortunately, reports coming out about Fairgames, and it doesn't seem to be painting a very good picture for that game and everything. So we'll take a quick break, and we will be right back. Okay, and we are back with part 2 of my 2 cent video, and for this one, we're going to be taking a look at the situation surrounding Fairgames, the supposedly live service game that Sony is trying to put out and everything. Now, one of the things we've seen this generation, at least with the PS5, has been Sony's really recent push to do a lot of these live service games and try, make money off the microtransactions and so forth. Now, this has certainly is viewed controversial to some folks out there, particularly with those who feel like Sony wasted a generation focusing on these type of live service games. And some do kind of point the blame at Jim Ryan really pushing for it, though. And while Sony seem to have had success so far with Helldivers 2, they've also have ran into some problems. We've heard a cancellation of a live service based off of God of War. Same thing with basically The Last of Us, to be exact. And then, of course, we all saw what happened with Concord and how that fell apart very quickly after the game came out. And then they just pulled the plug on that one. The studio that they bought to make the live service game, and this was under Herman Holtz, though, they got closed down as well. Well, now it seems that another game seems to be in trouble, at least according to this report from Bloomberg. And, well, it doesn't sound like it's painting a great picture for basically the studio that's making it, which I believe it's called Haven Studio, if I'm saying the name correctly, though. Which also its founder, Jade Raymond, had left basically following the supposedly reports of bad feedback for basically Fairgames. And this is from Push Square, though, and this has to do with a pre-alpha test that came out. It said, courtesy of the latest episode of PlayStation Podcast Scared Symbol, they have a payroll, more information about the project is beginning to trickle out. Apparently, a pre-alpha was distributed via PSN under the name Project Hearts, enabling a small number of participants to go hands-on with the game. According to one of those people, it's a battle royale cross with an extraction shooter with elements of both Fortnite and the Division presented. The original trailer, they pointed out, had a contemporary Robin Hood vibe to it, though. Apparently, the game sees you drop into a large urban area in terms of teams of 3 to 4 and tasks you with stealing from a vault while other groups of players attempt to do the same. In other words, it sounds like yet another extraction shooter similar to the uber popular Escape from Tarkov or Sony's subsidy Bungie Marathon, which that also is having issues as well. But apparently, the game doesn't feel good to play, and it's super chunky in its current state, which reflects what Bloomberg wrote in a report on Raymond's departure. The feedback to the release has not been good and all. Sony said it remains committed to Haven Studio under new leadership, of course, but it's been 4 years since the team was founded and more than 2 years since it was acquired outright. Now, it's possible that the game may have, they've gone back to look at what isn't and isn't working, maybe fix some things though. But at the same time, hearing the fact that one of the founders have left the studio and all, and given the current situation with Sony's push for live services outside of Helldivers 2, it sounds like this one is, I would not be shocked if we hear this game gets pulled or something like that, because right now, Sony's not in the greatest position when it comes to live service. So we already know about what happened with Concord. Marathon is having some major issues with some art assets, reports of art assets being stolen, and many are wondering if the damage has been done, should that game come out, or if they're going to delay that game. And well, this one, I would not be shocked if Sony pulls the plug on this one. I really would not, nor would I be surprised if they close Haven Studios. And I think it really highlights one of the criticisms that Sony has been facing, at least for this generation, is that they went too much all in on live services, and that really has sort of given the impression of PlayStation has no games, even though I'm not saying that's 100% true or anything like that, but it has kind of created that kind of situation, at least from my view though. But maybe Fairgames might be good. Maybe it might be for those who like those extraction shooters and all. It could end up being good. But given given Sony's handling of live service games so far, I would say odds are not looking good for Fairgames, and I would not be shocked if we hear this one gets either canceled or something like that, or the studio closes. So overall, time will ultimately tell. Fairgames gets a shot. We'll see how well if the game does get released. But don't be shocked, as I said, if they pull the plug on this one and all. Okay, we're going to take a quick break, and when we get back, we'll get to part 3, and this one has to do with Clair Obscur Expedition 33, and it seems to hit a good milestone, but in a interesting way and all. So we'll take a quick break, and we will be right back. Okay, and we are back with part 3 of my 2 cent video, and for this one, we're going to be taking a look at Clair Obscur Expedition 33. Now, this game recently came out, though. It's available on multiple systems, including, the PS5, on the PC, also on the Xbox systems, Series X and S, and of course, it's available on Game Pass and PC Game Pass as well. No word if a Switch version 2 yet is going to happen or not, but the developer supposedly is considering looking into it, though, so time will ultimately tell if that is the case. But ever since that game came out, though, it really kind of blew up in a way, though, and it definitely got a lot of positive response to a lot of folks out there, though, and some are speculating that this could be maybe nominated for, Game of the Year and all, and I wouldn't rule out the possibility that Clair Obscur Expedition 33, I wouldn't rule that out, getting that being nominated or winning Game of the Year, to be exact, though. We'll have to wait and see what other games come out and all, but in either case, though, it seems to be doing very well for the developers, and they are probably pretty happy about it. But the way they worded this and how well it did, it's just, I would say this is just weird on so many levels, but still interesting nevertheless. In an article from Video Game Chronicles, it reads that basically, get this, Clair Expedition 33 has hit a milestone so appropriate that the studio had to promise it's real. End quote. 33 days after its release, Expedition 33 has achieved 3.3 million copies sold. 33 days ago released Clair Obscur Expedition 33, the game's official BlueSky account wrote. Since then, we have sold 3.3 million copies. Seriously, as of today, we can't make that up. Another entry on the long list of surreal moments that you support had made real. Thanks to all of you. According to the publisher Kepler Interactive, the 3.3 million doesn't include additional downloads through Xbox Game Pass, PC Game Pass, meaning the total number of players could be significantly higher. That is true though. On Metacritic, the game is standing at a 92 on PS5, 91 on Xbox Series X and S, and 91 on PC. So, putting aside the odd number, to be exact, Expedition 33 hitting 3.3 million copies after 33 days. I mean, I will admit that's kind of weird. That's as weird as I remember a couple decades ago when we had 9/9/99, which I believe was September 9th, 1999. Weird as that may be. But in either case, as odd as that number is, though, nevertheless, it is still good to see a new IP or something that would be more hanker back to the traditional like JRPGs and everything like that. Doing very well indeed, though, and it's going to be very interesting to see going forward in terms of whether we get a port maybe for the Switch 2, to the possibility of a sequel, or maybe more from this developers and all. Certainly the game is definitely getting a lot of positive response, though. I haven't gotten into it as much. I have it on Game Pass on my Xbox Series S, and I will eventually try to get to it, though. There's a lot of games out there that I'm playing and all. But in either case, though, it's still good, nevertheless, that the developers are very pleased with the numbers and everything like that. And I definitely am going to be curious to see what they could come up with next going forward in terms of whether it's a sequel or whether it's a new IP, whether they continue the RPG route or do something like an action or adventure game, or even something like an action RPG to be exact. So very good for the developers indeed, and very pleased to see them doing very well despite the whole 33 days ago hitting 3.3 million for their game Clair Expedition 33. So overall, though, despite the way the numbers are put up, though, it's still good to see the game doing very well for the developers, though. And I'm very curious to see what they have, what they can put out going forward, whether it's a new IP or sequel and all. Okay, we're going to take a quick break, and when we get back, we'll get to our fourth and final part, and this one has to do with EA and all, and some unfortunate news to be exact, though. So we'll take a quick break, and we will be right back. Okay, and we are back with our fourth and final part of my My Two Cent video. And for this one, we're going to be taking a look at EA and basically some unfortunate news coming out from them. Now, EA unfortunately doesn't have the greatest reputation out there. While there are certainly games that people do like, there have been some decisions they've made over the years that has earned them the worst company in America in the past, and some debacles and controversies, such as basically what we saw with Star Wars Battlefront 2. They're also been notorious for when they buy a studio, they end up shutting that studio down. Some examples we saw were, there's a studio that did, the original Dead Space, Visceral Studios, that eventually, after Dead Space 3, they did, I think, Battlefront Hardline, and then they got shut down and everything, to even EA Mythic, that did that mobile game Dungeon Keeper, which did not go very well with a lot of folks, and that studio got shut down as well. So, unfortunately, EA doesn't, let's just say, their reputation isn't exactly great and everything like that. And unfortunately, it seems to indicate that basically one of the games, at least when they signed a deal with Marvel, unfortunately got pulled along with the studio as well. Further, they've basically made that they are refocusing some of their efforts and everything. From an article on IGN, it reads that Electronic Arts is canceling its planned Black Panther game and shutting down developer Cliffhanger Games, IGN has learned. In an email sent to staff from EA Entertainment president, said that these changes, along with other recent cancellation and layoffs, are being done to sharpen our focus and put our creative energy behind the most significant growth opportunity, though. In addition to closing Cliffhanger and canceling Black Panther, EA is also laying off some individuals, both in its mobile and central team. When asked for the exact number of individual impacted, EA declined to comment. IGN understand that the total number of affected individuals in this was less than roughly 300 roles cut last month, according to Respawn and EA's fan care team, but cannot confirm how much. As with past rounds of layoff, EA is endeavoring to place affected individuals in other roles across the company. The company has made use of this placement program with each round of layoffs in recent years, an effort that remains possible despite the constant teams cut, likely due to EA seemingly drastically increasing headcounts on other teams at the same time. EA employs 800 more people as of March this year than it did the same time in 2024. They also point out that they're reassured that EA will continue to invest in its Iron Man game at Motive and the third Star Wars Jedi game, as well as it maintains its mobile business despite today's cuts. The email doesn't mention EA Sports, but this is due to this person running EA Entertainment, while EA Sports is a separate division. IGN understands that the sports division is unaffected by these changes for now. Additionally, IGN understands that the current iteration of BioWare to continue working on Mass Effect. Last year, CEO Andrew Wilson announced that the company would be moving away from the development of future licensed IPs that we do not believe will be successful in our changing industry, but notably, Marvel and EA's agreement for Black Panther was part of a 3-game deal that included Iron Man and a third unannounced title. IGN understand this partnership will continue with Motive Studio leading the future Marvel titles. EA provided the following statement regarding this deal with Marvel to IGN, attributed to our partnership with Marvel remains strong and our multi-tier long-term collaboration continues. A Marvel spokesman shared a similar statement with IGN post-publication. They said the multi-tier long-term relationship between Marvel Games and EA, a creative collaboration focused on original storytelling with various beloved Marvel characters, remains strong. Development of our console and PC titles begins with Marvel Iron Man. It's led by Motive Studio. So I will say it is a little bit unfortunate to see that Black Panther game cancel and all. It would have been very interesting to see how it was done. I mean, some believe that it could have been done maybe it's sort of like in a Assassin's Creed style, and maybe it could have actually worked that way to a certain extent. It would have been really interesting to see what happened with that Black Panther game. So very unfortunate indeed. On the other hand, we didn't really see much about that game other than just maybe some artwork here and there, but unfortunately it doesn't seem like that one will ever see the light of day. The Iron Man game for now seems to be moving forward, but we'll see if that one suffers the same fate as Black Panther or not. But in either case, though, it is a little unfortunate that game is being pulled and all, but obviously EA seems to be more focusing on their core franchises rather than trying to do licensed IPs going forward. Obviously, they're going to continue with Marvel and do these games and everything like that, but it'll be very interesting what will happen going forward when these games eventually come out, whether Marvel continues working with EA or not, though. But in either case, though, it seems as though EA is going in a little bit different direction and so forth. Some might agree with what Andrew Wilson is doing, others may not. But in either case, though, unfortunately, it is what it is. So, shame we didn't get to see the Black Panther game. Somewhat curious about the Iron Man game, but being this is from EA, I have my concerns about that title. But then again, we've yet to see anything, so it remains to be seen about that one, though. But overall, I would say, a little disappointed for those who were hoping to see a Black Panther game and everything. We do have that Captain America and Black Panther game set in World War II, which sounds promising, but we have yet to see any actual gameplay at this time on that one, though. Iron Man may or may not be good, so we'll have to wait and see. Obviously, we have another Star Wars game coming from them, possibly a third entry in the Jedi Fallen Order series or something completely new. But in either case, though, it seems that one Marvel game got canceled, another one still seems to be in the works, though, and of course, EA seems to be moving away from doing what they view as, licensed IPs and all, at least according to what the CEO is saying, or at least how I'm reading it, though. Okay, this concludes this My 2 Cent video for this week. And again, these are my opinion. What are yours? What are your thoughts about rumors about this Nintendo Direct happening in June? Do you think it will happen in June? And if so, do you think it will happen around the time the Switch 2 comes out? Or do you think it will happen like, a week after, or maybe a little bit later in June? Or do you don't think we'll get a Nintendo Direct in June at all? What are your thoughts about the situation surrounding Fairgames and all? Do you think that there's a good chance Sony might pull the plug on this live service game, or do you think that they'll be able to iron things out and the game will get released and all? And do you think it will suffer the fate that what happened with Concord, or do you think it could find success the way we saw with Helldivers 2 and all? What are your thoughts about Clair Obscur Expedition 33? Do you think it's odd what the developers put out in terms of how well the game is doing? But in either case, though, do you still think you're glad to see this game becoming a success? Do you foresee this one getting nominated for Game of the Year at the Game Awards? And do you think it could win Game of the Year at the Game Awards? And what are your thoughts about some of the decision made at EA recently in terms of canceling Black Panther? Were you a little disappointed about it? Is it not a big deal? Would you have liked to see a Black Panther game in any way? And their focus on moving away from licensed IP. Do you think this is a smart move on their part? Do you think it's smart for them to just focus on their current core franchises like Battlefield and so forth? Do you agree with what I said in this video? Do you disagree? Do you have a difference of opinion? As always, sound off on the comment section below. Let me know what you think. And if you do like this video, I hope you hit the like button. I would appreciate it. And I hope you do subscribe to my YouTube channel. If you do, make sure you hit the bell icon for notifications of any new videos I put up. Also, feel free to share this video if you want to, and feel free to donate to my channel if you like. You can do it through PayPal Me, Patreon, or Steam Labs. Links will be in the description of this video, assuming you're watching this on YouTube. And I will see you again next time when I do another video. Hopefully that'll be soon. Until then, from Southern California, I wish you all a good day then. Bye!